everybody. This is Rush Roundtable episode 217. We were discussing dog ears. I'm your host, Ralph, joined by Paul, Omar, and welcome back, Brian. If you like Rush fans, subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, you can tip us on Ko-fi and check out our sponsors in the video description. So with that, I'll get to it. So dog ears is one of, I think, probably the most divisive songs that they have. A lot of people really
Top five
like,
at least.
yeah, I think Ultimate Classic Rock ranked it at 155 in their ranking of all 167 songs by Rush. Personally, I love the song. I think I can understand some of their non-Rush aspects to it that maybe people don't usually like. So with that, anybody have any general impressions first when you talk about?
I think I read somewhere that Neil wrote this after a hangover or something like that, or something.
Yes. I think the story is they got back together for the album, and the first night they had a lot of celebrating, and the next day he wasn't feeling he was feeling a little worse for the wear.
Felt like a dog.
Exactly. Didn't think he was going to get much done that day, but then came up with dog ears.
Yeah.
And inspired by, as he was writing, his, I believe, 7-year-old husky, Nick, was there, and he just thought to himself, wonder what's going through his brain, sort of a low-level buzz, and everything kind of grew from there. Yeah. And tying into the whole theme, the loose theme of Test for Echo being communication and connectivity, the whole idea that a dog thinks very simply, doesn't have to be deep, but there is depth there with the whole idea of instinct and how we view time, which we'll get into in the lyrics. But it fits Test for Echo's motif pretty well, in my opinion.
I agree with that, Paul. I'm one that I generally like non-mainstream songs of Rush. So like the ones that are played all the time, The Spirit of Radio, Tom Sawyer, Limelight. They're not my favorites. They're not bad, but I've just heard them so many times they get repetitive. But songs on Test for Echo, I don't believe really got any airplay. Maybe actually Test for Echo, and I think maybe Driven did.
Yeah,
but I don't know about the others. Yeah, Half the World.
I think I heard Stick It Out, but that's about it.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Counterparts.
That's kind of
that's right. See where my brain is.
But more to the point, back to what you said, it's not as much airplay. You don't think about it as much. So that proves Brian's point.
You got me.
Yeah. So, I love the deep cuts. That's what I consider to be deep cuts. Dog ears is definitely a deep cut, and I love the deep cuts.
All right. So the song starts off a little gets into it right away. Like kind of a pop punk riff, I think I've read it described as. What do you think, Paul, about that intro?
Definitely. See, it's smarter than it appears, in my opinion, because the song is going to talk about how we perceive time, and you open up with a high beats per minute, fast kick in, almost instinctive, boom, fast, here we go. It's very high paced, and that's going to play in even lyrically and musically later. It's cut to the chase, we're in it, boom, boom, boom. So
yeah, I don't hear punk per se. I can hear a punk influence, though, the way Neil's playing like kind of offbeat during the verse. He's hitting accenting up notes more than usual during the verse. So yeah, I could see how there's an influence there.
Alex's guitar line.
Yeah.
If you isolate that does sound punk to me.
Yeah, that's true.
I would have to agree. And I think this song starts out like just with a punch. It just goes right in. There's no intro. There's no Livia Strangiato, slow open. It just goes right in and it just starts hitting.
Yeah, I think it's more the guitar than the drumming that sounds more punkish. Yeah, you're right there.
The bass seems kind of a little low end, not sticking out for me too much during the intro.
Supporting.
Yeah. All right, and first we get right into is in a dog's life, a year is really more like 7, and all too soon, a canine will be chasing cars in doggy heaven. It seems to me as we make our own few circles around the sun, we get it backwards, and 7 years go by like one. As this ties into the theme that Paul was mentioning, that time, our perception of time.
Yeah, appreciate the time we have. That's a theme that Neil's written about how many times, and they've written music for it. We'd be here all night if we were listing all the songs that talks about, as opposed to appreciating the here and now. Just rinse, repeat.
Yeah, and,
Yep.
and also, I'm sorry, I don't know if you were done, Paul.
Yeah, I am.
Also, I think I like the way Neil, in a comical way, they'll be chasing dogs in doggy heaven before they know it. Doing these circles around the sun. Are we living our lives that way? It's like kind of like, you know, just going through the motions, right? Kind of instinctively, like an animal would. And animals live instinctually. They're not planning ahead. They're not. It's just at the moment. So, you know, all of a sudden, 5, 10 years have gone by in your life. You look back, it's like, what have I done? I mean, have I accomplished anything? So that phrase, as we make our own few circles around the sun. That's a very interesting phrase to me in those two verses, because I'm like, yeah, like what if this time is going by? What are we doing? What we look back 5 years, we look ahead 5 years, that looks like a long time. But if we think back 5 years, it's fast. So it does go by fast. So what are we doing? Are we thinking like a dog, or are we actually making the best of our time?
Yeah, reminds me of the term, they're saying years are short, but the days are long, like that, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this the very first lyric, that whole opening lyric, it just we get it backwards, and our 7 years go by like one. Uh, and it's true. It's true. It's exactly what Omar just said. You you look ahead 5 years, it seems like it's forever. But if you look back in the past 5 years, it's nothing. It's
Yeah,
gone
it's
by
nothing.
so fast. It just has blown by. Like 5 years ago was what, 2019? Um, that's I think now, if I'm my math right.
Yeah, right.
Even 10, 15 years, you look back, it's fast. It's like,
Exactly.
where'd it go? Yep.
Yeah, what happened? What happened to it? Even 10 years ago, and
Our 40 was
2014.
9 years ago. It does not feel like that.
There
And
you
yet,
go.
holy cow.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
absolute. So yeah, R40, the end of R40 this year, our next year will be 10 years since it ended. That's crazy.
About that, right? Right. And then we go into the chorus. The first one is just 2 lines. Dog ears, it's the season of the itch. Dog ears, with every scratch it reappears. I don't know. Do you have
Routine.
something? Routine? Oh, okay.
Routine. There's an itch,
Yep.
scratch it. Itch, scratch it. Itch, scratch it.
Yeah.
I also see it in another way too. It's like, yeah, when you get that itch, that's kind of like a reminders where you kind of like you check your surroundings and like, where am I? In my life, what am I doing? Some people will just continue on as normal. Then another few years will go by and they'll kind of like, maybe some epiphany moment will happen or some event will happen in their life, and they'll scratch that itch again and be like, okay, have I done anything since the last time I decided I was going to do something? Did I ever do it? So I kind of see it kind of that way. It's like it's the reoccurring, foreboding in your stomach that you get, that, oh darn, did I actually do what I said I was going to do, or what I had to do? And look at all this time that's gone by. So I got to check myself. So that's kind of how I see that itch coming along every so often.
Excellent point. Brian, did you have any feedback on the?
I don't really think too much about this. The only portion that I think really stood out for me was with every scratch it reappears, because it's the season of the itch. What I take that to mean, and I think about Russian lyrics completely different than anybody else would or might. But with if you're in the season of the itch and you have an itch and then you scratch it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to itch again, and you're going to have to scratch it again. But the itch comes back with every time that you scratch. So I just think about, um, the repeat, the repetitiveness.
Yeah, makes sense.
And
Right.
by the way, I just wanted to say about the lyrics. I'm not typically a lyrics guy myself. I love Neil's lyrics, but it would have to be something really impactful for you to remember them word by word by word. But I do love his lyrics. And most of the time when songs like this, years, even since it came out till now, I never really paid attention to really what the song meant until very recently when I was forced to look at it because I'm going to talk about it. And then, like, oh, I mean, I should have paid attention to these lyrics because it actually is saying something deep and philosophical that on the surface it's kind of comical, but if you start talking about it and you see, oh, okay, there's something there, So it's happening again. I mean, the genius of Neil's lyrics. And like he said, you could take the lyrics any way you want. I don't care. Neil didn't care how you interpreted his lyrics, but if it made some kind of impact, that's what he would, he would appreciate.
And for all the song's detractors who say this is fluff or this is so far outside their wheelhouse, I disagree completely.
Yeah, I
Anyone
disagree.
who's been to a Rush concert and have seen the vignettes in between the songs, they got a great sense of humor. Even writing styles. Remember back by around Presto, Neil was studying writing techniques to improve and better himself. And this is almost like a spiritual uh, descendant of something like Anagram, where he's playing with words, as we're about to
Yeah,
see in the next verse. So I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but we'll see that in a second.
I,
So,
I agree, Paul. I agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I even read in Martin Popoff's book where he mentions like he wasn't sure how the Getty and Alex were going to take these lyrics, and he gave it to them, and they were on board with it, so it worked out.
Yep.
They ran with it.
Yes. So the next verse. In the dog days, people look too serious. Dogs cry for the moon, but those connections are mysterious. Seems to me, while it's true that every dog will have his day, when all the bones are buried, there is barely time to go outside and play.
People look too serious. Too serious. Gotta love that play on words there.
Yes, exactly. Right.
And the one thing I did find out in some of my digging with this is I wanted to look up Sirius, Sirius, for those of you playing at home who don't have a
Mhm.
lyric sheet or
Mhm.
haven't read the sleeve in a bit. Actually, is derived from a Greek word that loosely translates into glowing or scorching. So we've got the theme of light there now too, or enlightened if you want to pull a total play on words.
Mhm.
So again, back to awareness and connectivity. But
I also found out that Sirius also was the dog star.
Yes.
That's
that
the
yes,
dog star. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it,
Canis
it's
Maker.
it's related to that, and then it's true that every dog will have his day. There's barely time to go outside and play. Well, maybe now this person is paying more attention to his life, and he's saying that he's got to work like a dog because the days are hot, and you're not going to be. You got to make something happen. You can't be like just laying around like a lazy dog. you got to
All work
be
and no
you
play
got to be
makes
a
the
working
dull
dog
boy.
even when the days are hot, and you got to make it happen. So you bury your bones, maybe you're investing or whatever, but you got to play and you got to work.
Yeah, I think, and this is another lyric that ties in with Neil's famous saying, "What's the most excellent thing I can do today?" I'm not going to wait till there's no time to play. I'm going to do it now.
Yep.
Yep. And excuse me. I also agree with what Omar said. It's when you work 8 hours a day, most people, and some people work even more. But at the end of the day, say you get up at 8 a.m., you start work at 8, or work just a 9 to 5 job. By the time you get home at say 6, there's barely time to go outside and play. You've done all your work for the day. There's not a lot of time left in the day to do what you want to do, what you want to play. And that's kind of exactly what Paul touched on, was the sense of time. What are we doing here? We have to work to survive, but we also have to have fun for our mental well-being. So there's a balance.
Well, Rush
I
fans,
sense
they
time.
they yeah, Rush fans, get up at 7 and go to work at 9, typically.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say I'm actually the contrarian here because I worked midnight shift last night. I had to cut my sleep short in order to log on for this, but this is the more, I don't want to say more important. I make this my more enjoyable priority, and this is what. So I'm a pre. What's the most excellent thing I can do today? Talk about dog years with you guys. So that's what I was looking forward to,
Yeah.
and that's what I appreciate about the day. So yeah, it's not just about
Excellent.
burying the bones, so to speak, lyrically, but it is about going out and playing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I agree.
Yes. So for the next chorus, we add 2 more lines. So it's dog years at the season of the itch, dog years with every scratch it reappears, dog years for every sad son of a bitch, dog years with his tail between his ears.
Resigned to that mundane living is what that says to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, and as time goes on, more things happen to you, good and bad. Maybe in this case, it's more bad than good up to this point. Sorry, has his tail between his ears. But it's as long as the longer life goes on, more you're exposed to either good or bad things happening to you. You just don't know what. So
Right. You can get worn down, or you can keep fighting back and playing. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And with what Paul and Omar and even Ralph just said, I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what I take away from those lyrics.
We have a little musical bridge, and then that goes into one of my favorite phrases is, I'd rather be a tortoise from Galapagos or a span in geological time. Rather be a tortoise from Galapagos or a span of geological time than be living in these dog years. I mean, tortoise from Galapagos. I kind of love that. Who can hate that?
And I've been
well,
lucky enough to see a relative of them on the island of Kauai. They've got a migration of tortoises coming up over the last couple of years. So I have pictures. But I love the fact that musically it slows down here
Yes,
to
that's true.
accentuate their point. Our beats per minute have come down now, and it's now think about it. And the lack of a solo here in this interlude, I think even makes the point as well, because what do we have? Getty doing a low level buzz of oohs and ahs. So
Right.
again, it's how deep
Yeah.
you want to look.
yeah, I think the song has a sense of urgency because a dog's life is typically short, right? So it's trying to saying a lot of things, but then not you don't want to live like a dog. You want to have a long life. You want to be able to do a lot of things. I'd rather be a tortoise or a span of geological time. Want to take my time. Then I'd rather have that than living dog years. So that's the part where it slows down, but then it picks up again because you got to get all this stuff done before your dog years are over.
Yep, that frantic picked up again. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
and
good
you know
point.
what? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No, go
Ralph.
ahead. Yeah, okay, Brian.
So you know what? This is why I love Rush fans, because you guys just made me think about something that I never thought about before, and that
Yes.
is that uh, the song starts out so fast and beating and hard, and it's going and going and going and going like a dog's life. And then when it gets to the tortoise Galapagos, it slows down. I never thought that's crazy. I never thought
Yeah,
about that.
the
That's
introspection is there, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And a tortoise from Galapagos. I'd rather be a tortoise from Galapagos. They live sometimes hundreds of years, So that's wow, wow. That's just crazy. I found
That's
something
deep. That's
out new
deep,
today.
man.
Yeah.
That's deep.
I found something new out. I've been listening to the song for how long? That's awesome. That's
That's
very
happened to
Yeah,
me
I
every
never.
time. Every time I've been on a Rush Roundtable discussing a song, there's something that I did not see, and the other folks on the discussion, they probably thought about it forever, and I never thought of that. So
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Same. I agree, Omar. I agree. So
Yeah,
thanks for that, Paul.
yeah, definitely. Right, like and Paul was saying, we got this interlude that starts picking up speed and even going into I think double time right before they go back into the next verse, and then Neil's got a great fill to bring him back. And
Sorry,
they go,
I had a deal with a cat who wanted to be on dog ears. I'm like, no.
wrong choice.
And now hearing from the opposition. No.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Not now.
Point, counterpoint, right?
Yeah. Get out of here.
We go into in the dog brains, a constant buzz of low-level static. One sniff at the hydrant, and the answer is automatic. Some people putting out the reference to the Signals album cover. Seems to me as we make our own few circles around the block, we lost our senses for the higher level static of talk. So, yeah. How about you, Brian? We want to say anything about that?
So yeah, I couldn't agree with Neil more, and this speaks more to my life nowadays, where people have lost kind of like their basic instincts, and you know, they'd rather talk almost instead of feel the world around them, sniff at the hydrant, and they know exactly what's going on. That I believe that that's the whole point of that. If you sniff at the hydrant and the answer just comes to you, you don't feel it. Or, I'm sorry, you don't think about it, you just feel it. And I think that's what a lot of people have lost is you know, their feelers, so to say, their natural basic instincts that a dog still has. So that's what I take away from that.
This could tie right into a song like Available Light. There you go. This respected, revered song. People call it Getty's vocal peak at times. And it's best song on Presto. I've heard that a lot, being a big Presto fan. It's saying the exact same thing that just said. So for all the song's detractors, I would simply say look for the similarities. Take time, experience, perceive what's around you, as opposed to going through that mundane routine of constant here to there and nothing else. So
I agree, Paul. I agree.
And also the last verse. I don't know. Neil had, I don't know how he did it. He was very observant. He had such a knack for like kind of, I don't want to say he predicted the future, none of that stuff. I'm not saying that at all. He just had a knack for seeing how people behaved and kind of what it would lead to. So that last verse, it so applies to what's happening now, especially in the political scene where there's so much disagreement. Like people like to hear themselves talk, right? You know, it says we've lost our senses for the higher level static of talk. It's like, you know, you are living your life, you know, and you have your, as time goes on, you get established more in your opinions. And, you know, sometimes you think your opinions are facts. Some people, many people maybe, and you might not realize that you're stating your opinions as fact, and it kind of leads to less agreement or discussion. So, you know, it becomes static, you know, and then it's like, I think I'll just, you know, try to see what is right and wrong, and try to, you know, things are usually not so far right or left. They're more towards, the truth is somewhere in the center somewhere, right?
Mm.
I think it's our job to find out what that is. And I think Neil was alluding to that even though, you know, we may be rushing our lives, you know, a dog is rushing their life. They don't know it because they don't have a long life typically, but maybe we're rushing, and maybe sometimes we need to like take a step back. You know, it's not just our block that exists. You know, there are other blocks of people and, you know, territories that people reside in and have their opinions and ways of seeing things. We should be open to learn about all of that, and just, you know, makes us better people because we're understanding each other more. So I think that's kind of like what that's alluding to at the end of it all. It's like, you know, let's just try to get along, people. Don't,
which
you know,
ties us back into the album's theme of
Yes.
connectivity and communication.
Yeah.
Right.
This is not a throwaway, in my opinion. It fits
Mhm.
perfectly, and even
I,
song sequence wise in the album. You know, we
Yeah.
go from Time in Motion to Totem to this, and the next one is going to be Virtuality.
Mhm.
This is a well thought out sequence, in my opinion. It's you know, may not, you know, cure terminal illnesses or anything, but it's deeper than expected if you choose to look at it that way.
Yeah, and you're not gonna believe this. So today, I
Maybe
was
I
thinking
will.
about the song, right? And I was on the roundtable for the song "Losing It" back in the day, like a while ago. This song is actually similar to that song in the sense that, they're two completely different ways of asking the question, what are you doing with your time? Are you taking advantage of what you have? And losing it, you had people who had these talents that, and, in the chorus of the song, if I remember, you know, some people choose to stay back and watch other people live their dreams. Uh, and maybe they live a short life because of it, but they live their dream. Or you can choose to live the dream, right? And be ambitious about it. So you're making choices in your life, and then at the end, when it's winding down, how are you gonna feel looking back? Same with this song. It's like, the earth's going around the sun. That's not changeable. What are you doing with your time every day, every week, every month, every year? So that when you look back 5 years, 10 years, will you be, I'm making progress, or you're going to be regretful? Regret is, oh, it's a terrible thing to live with. When you could have done something. I have regrets. There are things I could have done. But this song also makes you realize, life is not as long as you think. We're only immortal for a limited time. So take note,
Agreed.
take note of yourself every day, see where you're going, try to be moving forward and not being, static or standing still.
Look at the start of their career. We have in the end, we have here again. Look in the middle. You mentioned Dreamline. Excellent example. Time Stands Still. Look at the end. Headlong Flight. Garden. Reflective. This is not a new theme.
Yeah.
It's just a different take on it, which, hey, they didn't get stagnant. They were constantly looking at different ways to look at it.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
No live versions of this song though.
No,
Yeah,
no, unfortunately not.
that's a shame too.
I was watching this on Neil's Work in Progress,
Yes.
where he breaks down the
Yes.
song.
Yeah.
And since we're on the last course, the one thing I noted on the version he was playing to, it had all 4 lines in it. Where on the album, it only has the last 2 lines.
Oh.
Yeah, it was
never
it's
noticed
interesting to
that.
me. Yeah, it's just weird, right? To go back and see if there's any other differences in the songs. But yeah, just noticed that. Right. So we end on dog ears. For every sad son of a bitch, dog ears with his tail between his ears. In the dog ears. And repeats that.
And how it ends, it's sped up
Yep.
and then it stopped.
Right.
Yeah, it just stops. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Making the point even more musically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. It just cuts off. That's it.
And speaking of a work in progress, I was going to mention something to that effect too. But because of Neil changing his style of drumming for this record, I think he was paying a lot more attention to how he was playing. He had to, because he had to concentrate more, because now he was forcing himself to use traditional grip for a whole record. And not only that, so now he had to create parts for the music that the guys were giving back to him, based on the lyrics that he gave them. And now, how am I going to make this work? And I actually think, for all of the crap that Test for Echo gets, I think it's a very groovy record, the most groovy of all of them, because of the choices that Neil made for his playing. And this is a good example of that. This is a groovy song. I mean, it's not his typical, right on the beat, right on the note, that he used to play, which was cool too. This one is like he was saying, playing like a, circular type, and it shows in all of the songs. And this is an example of that. So I really, I dig it. I dig the song more today after we've spoken about it too, because now I even know more about it. But
I chose
musically,
it
it's
for
really
Stick It
good.
Out when I was on our series, Stick It Out, as songs you didn't quite get or like first time around or give a chance to. And it actually made me look at the entire album differently and much more in depth. It's sort of where I got some of the things I brought up today. But as a side note, we do have on the Rush Fans channel a companion piece featuring the dogs of Rush Fans to go along with this episode and with the song. So if you want to check out some of the dogs of Rush Fans, that's on there as well.
Cool. And speaking of dogs, I got this when I was in the Test for Echo tour in 1996 or whatever it was. And then recently my puppy got to it.
That's awesome.
That
Great
is a
little
true
tie-in
Rush
there, I
dog
like
ears
it.
hat right there.
Yes, it
That
is.
is a dog ears hat for sure.
Right.
Living in these dogs.
You
Sad
could
son of a
probably
bitch.
you could probably sell that to a Rush fan for a lot of money.
Right. A dog
No
coat.
doubt.
Yeah.
Came like that from the factory.
Right. Yeah. It's for the
Rush
dog.
backstage, if you're listening, come out with dog ears chew
Yeah,
toys.
that's right.
There you go.
There's some ripped
yes.
shirts,
Yeah.
like homework that's been
They
chewed
got
on.
the Signals collar already. Hey,
That's
why
true.
not?
They do have the dog things, right?
Yeah. Well, we just gave them some ideas, so we're gonna have to send them a note for get a little cha-ching for coming our way.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Get a little collection going.
Yeah. So I said at the beginning, I really love the song, and like was already said, I've got even a better appreciation of it. Any other comments we wanted to follow up with? All right.
I said I will not skip this song ever.
Yeah. I don't think it's their best song. It's not one I
They
didn't.
can't all be the best song.
No,
I mean,
right.
Appreciate it
so
for what it is, just like the
Exactly.
song tells us to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Test for Echo. It's one of my most favorite albums. I know that's not a popular opinion, but simply because of this, simply because if you look deep below the surface, it's there. That the hidden meanings and the messages and everything. You look on, the top, uh, on the surface, it's a song about dog ears. Like what is this? And that's what most casual people would say. But the
Which is fine.
meaning that but of course, absolutely fine. But
But
the deeper you look, you see all these complex things and stuff I never knew. Like Paul, when you told me that it slowed down at the tourist from Galapagos part, I never knew that. It's so deep, and then it abruptly ends. Your life's over. It just stops, and that's so the instrumentations match exactly what they're talking about, and I love that about this song, and I appreciate it even more now.
So I wonder what the comments will be. Please let us know what you think of the song. We'd love to hear it. Maybe we change some minds, maybe not. We'll see. But do like and subscribe our video, and remember to support us on Ko-fi, and you can check out our merch shop for some Rush fan merch. So thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, guys.